Welcome back, everybody, to Your Creativity. We're here for a pun intended, spirited conversation with Clear Water Distilling Company. They are based in Pleasant Grove, Utah, and they are Utah County's first distillery. How are you guys today?
Good. How you doing?
Good. And we're talking with Matt and Stephanie. And their name plays an importance because it's also leads into their company. How do you say it? Eau Claire?
Eau Claire.
Eau Claire. And that means clear water.
Yep.
Tell us a little about how the distillery started.
Yeah, that's a bit of a story. I've been kind of into spirits for a long time, and got into scotch, got into tequila, and pretty much everything, just to kind of as an exploratory thing, and had it as kind of like a little bit of a hobby for a very long time, and started to appreciate kind of like the finer spirits, the ones that are a little bit harder to get, and so on, because it just seems like the more rare something is, generally it's more because of some kind of craft or some special result, with some cool flavor. And we've hosted a lot of events at our house. We've had a lot of folks over. We like to do poker, or used to anyway, before
Yeah.
COVID hit. And my friends kind of got to know that, and then they all got together one year and thought it would be cool to all chip in and buy me a still for Christmas, which was a pretty awesome gift. And so, needless to say, you can't disappoint your friends, so you got to make something. So I jumped on that, and I just tried to figure out what's something that's kind of cool or interesting that I would make. And it didn't actually occur to me to make like a gin or a whiskey or anything like that. I was just like, well, what sounds like it would be cool that would be distilled? And so I don't know, I think at the time I was on kind of a kick for sangrias, and so I thought that might be interesting. It's take what you'd have in a sangria other than the wine, ferment it, throw it in the still, and just run it and see what happens. And I didn't have very high expectations. I'm thinking, this is the first time I've ever run in this thing, and I'd been on YouTube trying to figure out how to even run it at all. And the basics are pretty simple, but when you get down to it, it's a little bit, you get to know. And then so I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna get some jet fuel here or some nasty crap, and it actually came out pretty good. It came out pretty tasty, and shared it a little bit, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I could drink this. This is pretty decent. And I'm just kind of like a little bit shocked, but then just kind of discovered that you actually can't distill stuff at home anywhere in the U.S. for that matter legally, unless you have a license. So like with beer and wine, which you can make all you want, for yourself, and no, the government for some reason doesn't really particularly care for you to do that. So then just said, okay.
You had to legitimize.
Yeah, begrudgingly, really. So it was just kind of like, okay, well, what's it going to take to get a license? Because this is cool, this is fun. I mean, we can do some different things, and I thought it'd be, great to have different stuff available on the liquor shelf for friends when they come over. And the license started to look kind of expensive, especially in Utah, because it's like just for the license alone in Utah is like some $4 or $5 grand. And but then we figured, we could get the shipping container that we could go stick out in the desert somewhere and do some Breaking Bad, whatever, with our little license, and for 15 grand or something like that, which was a lot, but hey, we could do it. And then it just kind of went from there, just spiraled. It's like, no, shipping container's not going to work. And, yeah.
And you were in the software industry at that time?
Yeah, still am. Data architecture, to get specific, which is hardly anyone knows what it means, but.
So between the software and the distilling company, what is the ratio of time that you dedicate?
Well, at the moment, I still maintain a consultancy that I do basically to pay the bills, because it's hard to go from a software salary over to a startup salary. And I didn't want to really take much money away from the distillery. I wanted to keep all that kind of being folded back in to grow it. So both of us have actually kept our day jobs, and so now it's like we have two jobs.
And Stephanie, you're a teacher, is that correct?
Yeah, this is my 20th year teaching.
Are you in schools, or are you online type situation?
I'm online. The COVID stuff just freaks me out. And then with the distillery, if either of us even went down for a few weeks, not to mention if we got it worse, we just couldn't handle that. So I'm actually teaching remotely, but I am still teaching this year. So I do both. I teach, I spend about 5 hours a day doing my teaching. And then, I don't know, probably 3 to 5 hours a day doing distilling stuff. So we're pretty busy, but we don't have kids. So it's what gets our time.
Oh, yeah, I have one kid and he's back at school, and it's a nerve-wracking situation. And I work at Salt Lake Community College, and it's nerve-wracking with people all around, but you know, you do what you can. But I'm glad you guys can stay in so you can keep maintaining everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that way.
So what led from the jump to the, well, yeah, it just steamrolled, but what it opening up and starting to get it out there? Tell us a bit about the rollout.
Yeah, so it was a process. You know, we kicked this off more or less, I guess, in, was it 2018 or late 2017? And yeah, I mean, I think we established our LLC, I think, in 2018. But you know, getting the federal license, even though it's less expensive than the Utah license, was probably one of the biggest hurdles. It takes a tremendous amount of paperwork, and beyond that, then we have, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20 different permits and regulatory licenses that we have to get in addition to that. Just, you know, with the FDA and, you know, OSHA and the city business licenses, and you name it. I mean, everybody wants to regulate what you're doing because, you know, you got booze. So that putting all that together and getting all that paperwork and doing all that due diligence was just, yeah, it was, and keeping a job at the same time. In fact, there's a group called the ADI, an industry organization, that the president of it says, if you can start up a distillery in less than 2 years, I'll buy you a steak dinner. So I think we just actually got in under the wire, technically, if you consider when we established the LLC. I think we filed in, it was April, and I think we got our license in, was it March? I think it was March. But anyway, we just barely got in under the wire there, and we didn't go for because it actually turned into a lunch instead of a dinner. So we just said, oh, screw that, man. We're getting jet.
Do you guys deliver to other states? Is it like in liquor stores in other states, or is it just Utah?
There are some crazy liquor laws, and they're different in every single state.
Yeah.
As far as being in like a big national chain, no. We have a few outlets right now, a few channels. One is we're selling out of the distillery here in Pleasant Grove. You can come right here and pick it up. We're not actually in Utah State liquor stores, and that's another story. But we have a distributor in LA who is doing the entire Southern California market. And then we have another distributor in California who has quite a few states, and they're who we send our stuff to so we can sell on our online site, which is shop.clearwaterdistilling.com. And it's actually fulfilled by this company called Speakeasy. And then we're just about to launch. We finalized everything. It's ready to go. We just actually have to get our product up on another site that called, oh no. I'm like, well, Clear. And they're based they have a big presence in Illinois and like same day shipping in Chicago and stuff, but they're opening up other states right now too. So, but we're constantly trying to find new outlets and expanding.
Yeah, in fact, we're launching in Colorado this month too. We've got actually a guy who's starting with us, Grant Lewis, who is a longtime hospitality guy and really kind of loves the brand and wants to start selling there. So we're just spinning that up, and hopefully we'll have that in full swing by 1st of November.
Yeah, I just wondered about that because a while back we interviewed Steve Conlon of Ogden's Own,
Hmm.
and he talked about the whole Idaho situation and just all the struggles getting into those other states.
Yep. And every state has different regulations.
Yeah.
Wyoming's kind of crazy. Idaho's fun. It's a bailment state and all this. Yeah, it's just.
Oh, yeah. So we'll get there.
How has the reception been down in Utah County with you guys opening up and selling liquor?
Way better than we expected. Because we've lived in Utah County for, I guess, a total of like 12 years. Out of the last 14, we actually left for a couple of years and came back, moved to California. But so we know, one, that the demographics in Utah County are changing. When we first moved here in 2006, it hadn't exploded, the population explosion yet. And it's different now than it was even then. A lot of different people are coming in. You'd be amazed how many people drink and how many people come in and go, I can't believe this is in Pleasant Grove. I'm so happy you're here. And there was really no pushback from city council or anything. They welcomed us with open arms. And in fact, we went through the entire process in Lehigh and in Pleasant Grove because we were looking at different buildings, and everybody was like amazingly welcoming and had no problem with it. So, I mean, there's always a couple. There was like this Facebook thread, and there were some of the, we don't want your kind here, but it was few and far between. So,
well, that's awesome. Let's talk about the flavors. You've got two different flavors, Josephine and Lorenz. Tell us a bit about them.
You want to tell?
Josephine is what that distilled sangria turned into. What she is now is loosely based on what that one was. We've done a lot of changes, and it's unlike anything. And I know that every company tries to say, oh, it's unlike anything on the market, but like, this is unlike anything I have ever seen in the world. And we travel. So Josephine is many different fresh fruits. If you've ever had like slivovitz or a real European schnapps, not this sweetened American stuff, but like real schnapps, which is like fruit that is distilled. It's generally one fruit, no sugar added. And Josephine is many fruits, all fresh. They're not even from concentrate. They're like fresh fruit sludge. It's awesome. It looks like the world's most expensive smoothie. And then it also has a little bit of molasses in it. And then we put wine in it. So it's brandy, it's slivovitz, it's
a little bit of rum.
Yeah, like rumish, but then we put, we age it, just rest it, I guess you should say, because age is a long time, for a few weeks with some toasted oak. And it gives it a little bit of color and just a little bit of smoky. And we've heard someone say it's like a cognac and a whiskey had a baby. Even that I don't think is completely accurate, because it's kind of like grappa and brandy. And
the best part about it is that, not only is it a kind of like a really cool combination of new flavors, but it's enigmatic, because if you pour a glass of this and you let it sit for about 20 minutes and you're sipping on it across that 20 minutes, it's like a wine where it opens up. Like you'll have a certain set of flavors you'll taste and you'll go, oh, I get a little bit of toasted marshmallow and maybe a little bit of strawberry leaves. And then the next sip, you'll be like, oh, I pick up a little bit of banana or a little bit of grape and some other things and some smoothness. And then you take another sip and it's different yet again. It just changes and evolves the whole time that it's opening up. And even beyond that, at 6, we let it bottle rest for 6 weeks at a minimum after we distill it, because even across those 6 weeks, it's absolutely nuts how much the flavor changes and gets more complex. But then after that 6 weeks, when we feel like, okay, it's kind of worthy at this point to be drunk a little bit, but even like 6 months down the road, it's totally different. And this is just bottle resting. So not even spending any time in a cask where it's breathing or getting anything else in with it. It's just such an amazing spirit how it just kind of evolves. And we got lucky with that. We didn't do that by design. It's just kind of the way it works out. And I think it's because of the fact that we have the ingredients that we do in there that just really kind of make it kind of its own unique thing. And that's really kind of our flagship deal, because it's just so cool. And honestly, as a cigar guy too, It is amazing paired with cigars. Better than any brandy.
My second cousin owns a cigar shop up here in Salt Lake. Have you heard of
Beehive?
Beehive, yeah.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Yeah.
Actually, we've talked with them a few different times, and I want to get in touch with them again. Maybe we can exchange numbers afterwards again, because I want to talk to them about something else coming up.
Yeah, Kendrick's great.
Yeah.
So
Josephine, that's the first one.
Josephine. Oh yeah, the other one. Lorenz, the rum. I'm a rum guy, so
It's not
I love it. Technically a rum. Okay.
Close to it, but not.
He's very particular about what can be called what. If you look up like bourbon and whiskey, like they're very specific. So Lawrence, we say Lawrence, even though everybody says Lorenz, but it's fine either way. It's definitely rum-like, but it also has apple in it, which means like kind of like a Calvados note, but just a small amount, which gives it a lot more complexity. And then it's not just one sugar, it's pilon CO, which is a hard brown sugar like a panela, and molasses. But then we run it through a botanical basket like gin does, and that without adding any sugar or anything after distillation, it just picks up the oils, the vapor does, the alcohol vapor. And
in the gin basket, we put cinnamon sticks and vanilla beans. So instead of like, so it's not any of the gin botanicals. It's actually like something that would complement a rum really well. And yeah, it emulsifies all that out of those, and it's just insane. It's so delicious.
And it's versatile. It goes in everything. So.
Well, I'm gonna have to get my hands on a couple of bottles. These sound great. And each flavor has their own charity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about those.
Yeah, so we put Josephine Baker, as our historical figure on that spirit for a couple of reasons. For one, purely from a marketing perspective, since the spirit doesn't really fit a category, you can't really call it anything. So you can't say like, oh, this is a brandy or a whiskey or something like that. It's what is it? I don't know. It's so we picked a person, and we're going to just call it Josephine. And what's cool about Josephine is that, she was, when we started looking up, in the very beginning, our kind of marketing branding theme was this, retro prohibition, but neo-prohibition kind of vibe to it. And so for fun, we were looking up different folks that were popular during Prohibition, like some of the flappers and stuff. And that's when we stumbled across her, because she was just one of these flappers and dancers. But it turned out her life was just so much more interesting, because she, she grew up in the US a little as a kid, and then was found by this company over in Paris, or she knew some folks in Paris that were looking to bring in some talent. And she just happened to be particularly good at dancing and whatnot. And so they brought her over to Paris, and she was dealing with civil rights issues in the US. So she's like, yeah, I'll go check it out. And actually became really popular there. Everybody really liked her, and she was starting to make lots of money and doing really well. And then, then in World War II, she actually joined the resistance and became a spy. So like she's really intelligent on top of all of this too.
Wow.
Did some incredible things as a spy, and then with all her money, started adopting children after the war and stuff. And Steph actually calls her the original Angelina Jolie, which is cool. And then she actually ended up doing the opening speech for the "I Have a Dream" speech for Martin Luther King, which I don't think anyone really knows about, which is kind of an incredible thing. It's and so she's had this incredible life of dealing with adversity and then trying to also do her best to help others out, to be like, hey, I want to be treated like this, so I'm going to treat others really well. And so we wanted to, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to exploit her by putting her on our bottle, we'd like to, kind of give back for that. And so the best way that we found was to do that through charity. And so we chose for the Josephine, the International Child Art Foundation. And it's got a couple of really cool things going for it. For one, on GuideStar, it's rated as really highly as a charity. So a great deal of their money goes right to the folks who actually need the money, as opposed to a lot of overhead. The other thing is it teaches arts, like, she was very much into, and then finally it teaches all of this to kids through empathy. So it actually teaches kids empathy about, you know, like maybe some folks in another country have an oppressive government, or, you know, maybe they're dealing with genocide or some horrible things. And, you know, it helps kids kind of learn that, you know, hey, things are a lot different in different places, and that, you know, how you can see things through someone else's eyes. And we thought for Josephine, that was just perfect. So we feel really good about that. And then Lorenz was an Arctic explorer in a big way, among other things. I mean, he was a movie star and wrote books and all sorts of stuff. But with him, we thought what would be the most appropriate, especially considering the global warming that we're dealing with, is the Ocean Conservancy, because that actually helps out with wildlife as well as, you know, kind of the conditions of the oceans. I mean, we all know about the Pacific garbage patch, where there's just a tremendous amount of just floating plastic and junk in the oceans, and this charity is trying their best to kind of keep things as best as possible for what's out there. And we figured for him, you know, this would be something that he would appreciate as well, being an outdoors person and appreciating the environment.
And they protect the Arctic and everything, which would have been very relevant to him.
Yeah.
And those were built in from the beginning, from when you were establishing everything.
Yep.
That's awesome. And you're also doing a crowdfunding campaign right now where people can like own part of the business. Tell us about what's going on there.
Well, a traditional method for startups is to get a business loan, right? And we looked at that and thought about it, but then we heard about this crowdfunding, and it's where you're selling small bits of equity to people. So your customers can actually own part of the business. And then as your company grows, and then later on, let's say you get bought by a larger, you know, Diageo or some big conglomerate, or you sell off a brand, because in the distilling world, that's actually fairly common that you just sell a line. Let's say Lorenz gets really popular and we can just sell that. Then people can get their equity back, but you get in on the growth. So we're a startup, and it's a great time to get in, like at the ground level, but then we're owned by the people who drink our stuff. And we have found that a lot of the people who are buying shares in the company reach out and, oh, what are you doing? And, oh, I bought some stuff and I told all my friends about it, and I love Lorenz, and I can't wait to try Josephine. And it becomes like this little family. So it's not like we're just giving some bank a payment every month. And, you know, I love that it's like, it feels like the Green Bay Packers, you know, they're owned by.
I was going to say, yeah.
And I'm a huge football fan, by the way. But like, I think that's such a cool way to do stuff, because you get people on your team, you know. So I think it's been really cool, and we're about halfway to our goal. With the regulation CF, the crowdfunding that allows regular people to invest, you don't have to prove that you're a millionaire. We can raise up to about $1 million, and we're almost at 500,000 right now. So we're just trying to finish out the campaign, and I don't think we're going to do it again. So when that's gone, it's gone. But it's been really cool.
Are there any like perks or anything like T-shirts or samples, or is it just they put in and?
Well, the biggest perk is obviously the ownership.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, there are little perks just so that people can kind of get excited about being part of it. So for 250 level, you get like a sticker, which once again, it's about the equity.
Yeah.
But then as you go up in levels, there are other perks like some glasses or a branded
Logo and stuff.
But yeah, so there are some perks. So it's not just like Kickstarter where they're giving you the money, you're getting the equity, and like, yeah, little tchotchkes. So that's cool.
Speaking of the branding, I think the lettering and everything is just beautiful. Tell us a bit about the development like that, where some like the inspiration came from.
Yeah, so when I first hatched the idea of actually doing this commercially, the very first phone call I made was to my buddy Kerry, who owns a marketing firm, and he's been a a C-level position in a billion-dollar company. And I mean, he's just got a super crazy good team of marketing guys, and they've just done this their whole lives. So I'm, because as I've done software all these years, one of the things that I've been heavily involved with, obviously, is business, right? Because you're writing software to facilitate business. So any good developer should know that, why they're making software and what they're doing it for. So I think a healthy understanding of business and in general and an acumen really kind of helps with that. So with all of that experience and time doing that, I realized, okay, look, yeah, I mean, you can have the best booze in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you definitely want to have a solid product and a really badass product, but you also want to have really, really solid and crazy good branding to go with it so that you can facilitate, the sales that you want to do. So, yeah, so these guys, they were like the Rolls Royce of branding. So, I wasn't sure whether they were going to be interested or not, but, they said, hey, this is actually kind of a cool thing and we want to get involved. So they actually became partners with us. And, so yeah, we went through, months and months of brand building and trying to figure out what it was supposed to be. I think we went through like 6 solid rounds of, all of the details, from the logos to the fonts to the colors to the mood boards and everything else. And, finally established, kind of like the core of the brand. And yeah, it's held pretty well. People really appreciate it.
And they're still involved in designing labels because we have more products coming. And so, yep. It's been
Any new products you can tell us about, or just they're in development?
Big one that is coming. I'm excited about it. Like, it sounds crazy from someone who owns a distillery that I'm not really much of a hard liquor drinker. I like wine. Well, Josephine is actually wine-like. But anyway, this next product is so good that you'll find me drinking the test batches that we're coming up with. So similar to our other products where they don't fit in a category and who knows what shelf you might find them on in the liquor store, this one's like that too. So not on purpose, it just happens to be amazing. So it's a mix of an American rye and a French Armagnac or cognac. And we're going back and forth right now with our suppliers because obviously we've been open since March. We're not creating a 30-year-old Armagnac here, not yet.
Yeah.
So this will be something that we do source and blend, which apparently is very common in the distilling world anyway. But it's got like the spicy that the rye offers and then the sweet that the Armagnac cognac offers. And it's so good. It's like, why isn't anybody else doing this? And then you remember nobody else wants to be on the specialty shelf. And we're like, who cares? We want to make the delicious thing. And we're cool with that. So we're really, that'll be out by December, hoping. So.
It's incredible. It's before I heard of actually anyone, making a blend like that, you just think that, oh, it's just kind of like one of those things you did as a kid, you call it suicide and you hit the pop machine with every lever.
Yeah.
And it ends up tasting just like a bunch of sugar anyway. But no, this actually, the flavors work out so well because the Armagnac, like Steph's saying, is anywhere from a 5 to 30-year-old blend of Armagnacs, which makes just an incredible, smooth, lovely, well-aged piece by itself. But then, doing an older aged 95% rye American whiskey just brings that, kind of, so you have this delicateness of the Armagnac, and then you have this kind of brute force of an American rye whiskey, and then you bring them together, and then they play right on top of each other so well, surprisingly well, that we could not help but just say, oh yeah, this is something that's going in a bottle, hands down. So yeah, we're excited about it.
Amazing, because all these people are coming and going, are you going to make whiskey? Are you going to make whiskey? And we're like, well, kind of. We're going to clear water whiskey, but it's going to be awesome. And we've picked our person, our icon. And the label's being developed right now, the art on it, and we're trying to come up with all this design stuff for how awesome it's going to look. And yeah, right now it's going back and forth with our vendors and trying to get the absolute perfect stuff. We thought we had it last week, and we sat there, we were so excited, and we started mixing. We're like, it's not quite there. It's not clear water quality. So we wrote to our people. We have a guy in France. I swear we're on like first name basis with him. Someday when COVID's over, we're going to go visit and have a big party in France with him. But yeah, we're like, oh, we want more of this flavor and more of this. And he's like, we're going to design that. We'll get it to you. So it's really fun to do that kind of stuff. And I'm really, really excited about that product. So.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, so you know too, and that was a really tough decision because it took us a long time to get this sample here. It took us almost, well, actually over a month.
It took over a month, yeah, like 6 weeks to get this little 200 milliliter sample. And then for us to go, no, it's not perfect. It's like, well, I'd rather wait and have this thing come out or January and it's amazing than try to push something out that we're not happy with. We have toured so many distilleries in our travels, and we want every single thing we produce to be anybody else's flagship. We're so snobby about that kind of stuff. Matt is a huge liquor snob, but that's a good thing.
Well, it's your livelihood. You want the best stuff out there.
We want every single product to be like the best product it can possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective too, I mean, we've had people that say, hey, you know, you really need to have a value product. This is really going to kind of help, you know, pay the bills and everything and economically make sense. And, you know, to some degree that is true. But, you know, at the same time, if you pair the right branding, the right marketing with the right kind of product, you're going to get enough of the volume to make it make sense. And, you know, and this product in particular really has to be top notch. Because this is one that it's going to be sitting out there with Josephine, and you know, and in terms of a price level too. I mean, it's not going to be inexpensive, but it's so worth it. I mean, it's so hard to, like Steph says, we put a blend together for a test batch, and it's like gone. It's where'd it go? It's so hard it's so hard not to keep testing it, you know.
Yeah. Well, with Josephine and Lorenz, you know, those guys inspire you, but on a business level or just personal, who inspires you?
Oh, wow. Boy, that's, you know, it's a mixture. There's a lot of folks out there that, you know, in different ways do different things that are really cool. You know, from the philanthropy side to the way that they do business. I mean, you know, you can call out folks like, I don't know, like an Elon Musk, but, you know, some of the stuff he does is pretty not, you know, kind of wacky and maybe not the best thing in the world, but some of the other stuff that he does do is amazing. Like, you know, the idea of, you know, sending your car to Mars. But it's the vision that this guy has, I think, is one of the coolest things, I think, I would say. But, you know, and then, you know, the way that people conduct themselves socially, I think is also super important too. You know, you've got to have the right kind of social responsibility and understand that you're living in a world with a bunch of other people. So, you know, I really don't like the idea of stepping on other folks to, you know, to get better off. We want to make a living and we want the distillery to do well, but we're not going to do it at the expense of other folks. So, you know, there's been a lot of people that, you know, and some names are politically charged and some aren't, but, you know, there's folks in the business world who've done well that are also giving back. And, you know, we would rather be among those folks than the ones that just say, hey, I'm just going to go and lock myself up in a yacht somewhere or a Manhattan apartment and nobody can, and I don't care about anybody else. But that's who we are. I think it's just the innovation, I think, is an important piece of it. And then, you know, I think the social responsibility is the next bit. And we just want to be able to blend in and enjoy this with everybody and, you know, be social about it. Because once COVID's over, once this whole stupid plague is done, I mean, we want to be out and mingling with folks and, you know, have events and, you know, have people over and in and say, hey, you know, come, you know, check out the distillery with us and, you know, and expand that huge network of folks that we really like to be a part of.
Because you guys had tours for a short time.
Yeah, we kind of have tours and then stop having tours.
Yeah.
We were having our marketing guy run them because he was willing to do it, and we'd have the like big garage door open and have the fan running, and we limited it to 4 people, and it was great. People were loving it. To be able to do something like that around here in Utah County was really cool. Even for people who don't drink, the science of distilling is really neat. And that was successful, and we were making sales and they were filling up. But then the recent spike in Utah County, we just, it's like, it's so hard because you want your business to do well, but you want to be safe and you want to do what's right for people. And it's not just that we don't want, you know, people coming in that have COVID, but we don't want them spreading it between each other, or heaven forbid our tour guide would have it or something. So it just became like a source of stress for us. So people can still stop by and pick up purchases. Like we do it kind of through the door. Show me your ID. Okay, give me your card, you know, and we're wearing masks and we pass through. But for now, it just feels like until Utah County can get this under control, it's not worth the risk. So it's tough, but.
So stay tuned, people, so you can go check it out when it comes back.
Yeah, and we know the hours that have been posted or have been kind of fluid, and I hate that too. I mean, none of that's fun, and you know, it's hard to really kind of establish what they are at this point. I mean, I think the safest thing, at least until COVID is under control, is to just say, hey, give us a call or check us out on Facebook, and we'll chat with you, and maybe, you know, like especially with the investors, we like to make sure they can at least stop by, and you know, we'll chat with them a little bit, but. Yeah, for the most part, right now, we're just going to have to keep the doors shut until things settle down.
And it's more the tasting too. Like the tour, if everybody's wearing a mask and they walk around, there's not a ton of risk because you're in this giant 22-foot ceiling warehouse with a fan. But then when everybody takes their mask off to drink, even if it only takes a minute to taste, because there's only a couple to taste right now, it's just that's the part. And everybody wants to taste it, which. Of course you do. I mean, that's
don't blame them.
the good part, right? But yeah, we'll see. We'll keep it updated on social media what we're choosing to do. But anything we're doing is for safety, obviously not for money, because if it was, we'd be wide open. So.
Well, and if you can't have business if customers are, you know, getting sick and.
Or us, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't have the people running it sick either. Before the bonus questions, is there anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't bring up?
No. So.
Okay. I think we're good.
All right, bonus question number 1. What does creativity mean to you?
I like to think about things in ways other people haven't thought about them before. I like to think that we live outside of the box. And I think both of our family members, or our families, think we're both crazy, which means we're perfect for each other. Because I want to do things just to do them. I want to experience everything, and creativity is part of that. Like, why can't this go together? Or, why can't I do this? You know, it's kind of the same question to me. So it's just beyond normal. Anything beyond normal is exciting and interesting to me.
Yeah, to me, creativity is kind of like a lack of boundaries, and it's also, you know, a different perspective. I think is a big part of creativity, because, you know, even just the way we approach, you know, our creations is different, because we approach it from the side of taste. And some people would call that backwards. You know, like if you're a distillery, you know, the typical way you start up a distillery is you make whiskey, stuff it in barrels, and then you make gin and vodka to help pay the bills until the whiskey's old enough to pay the bills. Or you know, maybe you build some other things that have already been built before, or just kind of stick within those government categories like we were talking about. But what I love is just, you know, being able to say, hey, you know, what if we did something that's you know, this kind of idea, this flavor profile, or, you know, how would we engineer a spirit to do that? And, you know, you wouldn't actually, and the ingredients don't even really matter. I mean, honestly, the only thing you need to make booze is some kind of sugar, and there's a lot of different kinds too. I mean, everything from, you know, hell, even milk has sugar. You can actually ferment and distill milk, and I don't know what that would taste like.
That sounds awful.
But yeah, I mean, that's the point, right? I mean, it may not be a good thing, but that's what's cool is, you know, we can, and now that we have the facility and we have everything that we need to do it, we're absolutely unbridled, and we do have a lot of other things in the hopper right now in R&D that, they actually might really surprise some people, like tomatoes and whatever. But it's just so fun to be able to just say, I am absolutely unfettered by anything, and as long as I can distill it, it's an option. So that's what I think about in terms of creativity. It's just the freedom.
And I think that when we started, some people were like, well, you guys don't have a background in distilling. What are you doing? You're going to have good stuff. And it's like, you know what? I think it's a strength. And anything we've determined that we don't know, we have sought outside counsel. Like there's an awesome distiller, Ethan at Holy Stone. He's awesome. He has helped us a lot, just with advice. And then we've got Adam Opalik, who was like employee #1 from High West and helped him get huge. And he was in charge of Western sales, and he's on our advisory board. And he helps us with all sorts of sales and distribution stuff that we would never know. And then we've got this other awesome guy, Eric in Oregon, and he consults with us and tells us all this stuff about our process and about Matt is very good. He's done all this. It wasn't me. Matt is very good about knowing what he doesn't know, recognizing when he's got some, blind spot, and finding someone that can help him answer that question. And that allows us to come in with this completely brand new view and way of looking at this market, this distilling, and still be able to do it. So I think he's a good leader.
Go Matt. Next up, who is your favorite Muppet and why?
Animal, by far. Animal's the best. Because I just feel like that at the end of most weeks. Beat up drums.
What about you, Stephanie?
Well, I watched the Muppet Show, but honestly, I was more of a Sesame Street kid, and I love Oscar the Grouch, which is kind of like Sesame Street's Animal, honestly, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because his little, trash can was always messy, and he didn't want to interact with you. He just went, rah! And I don't think I'm, mean like that, but I do have people tell me that I have a Midwestern frankness about me. That where I stand on things. I don't try to beat around the bush. This is how I feel. And then when I was a kid, I was kind of sloppy. So that's mine.
Live in a trash can.
Well, that's my mom. She might be bedroom.
And then the last one is, in the movie of your life, who would you like to play you?
I don't really want there to be a movie in my life.
Fair, yeah. There's no wrong answers, so.
One I'd rather, no. I don't know how to answer that, because I don't think I'd want a movie made about me. So I don't really like being center of attention.
It's understandable. Matt, do you have a?
I'm thinking, it's funny, I've never actually thought about that. I know that's gone around Facebook a ton and everything, and everybody's talked about it.
That's Sean Connery, or the most interesting man in the world guy. I'd say.
Yeah, right. No, I know, man, Sean Connery is definitely cool. But I mean, I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I'm sorry. I have a terrible answer. I don't know the answer.
No, it's okay. It's a thinker.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Maggie Mesa. She made this possible. I've known her for quite some time. We used to work together at a restaurant back in 2001 to 2002, and she made this possible.
Yeah, she's been tremendous with us too. She's a great help.
Yeah, she's helping us a lot with our social media and marketing strategy and stuff. So she's been really great. We love Maggie.
Speaking of, where can everybody check you out? Website, social media, location, if they want to come buy some stuff.
Yeah, so Facebook, it's Clear Water Distilling, and Instagram, also Clear Water Distilling, and then we're at, obviously, clearwaterdistilling.com. And then the crowdfunding page is at startengine.com/clearwaterdistilling.
Yep.
Awesome.
With an ING, a lot of people say distillery, and it's distilling.
Yeah, I have to keep on catching myself because I keep on saying ing. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. It was very interesting learning more about you and your business. And thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Have a good day.
You too.
You too. See ya.
See ya.